Bono said, "You didn't make a film about the artist. You made a film that is the artist."
What it is about David Bowie that excites you?
His style.
Yeah?
I like his makeup.
I always felt that I was making a film about Bowie, in quotations, not a film about David Jones, who was born in 1947, or David Bowie, the known entertainer, but Bowie in quotations. And to that extent, everything in the film, to me, everything that image of David was performed. And so I make no distinction when he's acting in a film role or being in a documentary. It's all part of the same visual vocabulary. And at the same time, what I also try to employ was film clips and art references to works that inspired and influenced him throughout. The first screening that I ever did of this film was in November. And the audience was Bono, The Edge, his wife, Eddie Vedder, his wife, and Sean Penn. I didn't know them, and they were recruited by David Guggenheim, who did A Name, Convenient Truth. He's a friend of mine. And when the movie, it was the best audience I will probably ever have for the film. They were rocking out from the second it started, and when the movie was over, they all rose to their feet before the lights came on. And Bono said, "You didn't make a film about the artist. You made a film that is the artist." David would have loved this. Everything in the film took its cue from David. Most of the aesthetics and the approach and how I constructed the film, I culled from readings about David's methodologies, particularly in the mid-70s. It was always meant to kind of be a laserium kind of experience where you're kind of sort of immersed. I think like most people, I discovered Bowie around the age I was entering puberty. And at that point, he was always more than just a musician. He was a passport to culture, to identity, to experimentation. And I know that sounds almost like a cliche, but it really was true. He was my introduction to all culture, really, at that age. And I think I remained a kind of casual listener, fan. What was intimidating was his intelligence. Bowie was a voracious reader, would travel around with a trunk of, hundreds of books. So I was like, how in the world can I walk in those shoes? So that part of it was intimidating. This can never be David Bowie on David Bowie. It needs to be Brett Morgen on David Bowie. They're just kind of wrapped into the kind of fabric of the film. I had a awareness of the unreleased material and the scene material. And I made a decision early on that I wasn't just gonna go with only unreleased stuff, because there was too much previously seen stuff that was worthwhile. I screened for 2 years, viewed every known piece of media in existence on Bowie, and feel very confident that we are putting forward the best and the essence of this incredible artist. So we did 600 hours of color correct. My colorist at the end of the project said, this shouldn't have even been done in a color room. This should have all been visual effects, because we were painting everything. I think that when you're making archival films, as a director, I only have 3 ways to communicate to the audience: montage, color, and sound. And so I treat each of those components the way a screenwriter approaches their script. Every performance that you will see in Moonage Daydream was cut and crafted specifically for this film. There are not two shots that are pulled from another performance in order. Some of the stuff like Ziggy Stardust has been out, but I don't use any of the angles that were previously seen. And probably the most exciting thing in the Ziggy section is the Gene Genie Love Me Do, which has never been released, with Jeff Beck on guitar. So it's there's a lot of mashups in the film. Nothing in the film has been heard in its current form before. And as I said, all the performances were pulled from original masters. I think the one that will probably receive the most attention is Heroes, which is entirely unseen. None of the footage had ever been processed. It was from a concert in 1978 in Earl's Court in Brixton, where David was from. And that was recorded 24-track audio and is pretty sensational. Before I sat to make the film, I had decided that the film I was going to make, whatever this thing was going to be, was if you buried it in the desert, society destroys itself, and you bury it in the desert in 5,000 years or sometime in the future, some beings come down to Earth and find this thing and they put it in. They wouldn't know if this was a god that came to Earth, some cult or religion from the 20th century, and one of their own who had come here before them, or a person who actually walked Earth. He's a real hero. I mean, he really is. He's godlike. He has super strengths and talents, but he's real, and his message is so inspiring.